Hello and welcome to the program. Now, it's no longer news that the man to steer the affairs of Edo State for the next 4 years is Godwin Obaseki. The incumbent governor was returned to office for a second term after defeating his main and longtime contender and candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, Osagie Ize Iyamo, with 84,366 votes. Now, that is a big surprise for many. Obaseki literally stepped on toes to pitch himself in the governorship race after falling out of good graces now with his predecessor, Adams Oshomole, and some state lawmakers. The election was considered a critical test of Obaseki's political zeal as all the knives were out for him before the poll. But all is well that ends well, as they say. And Obaseki is now smiling because he is effectively going to govern Edo State for the next 4 years, unless, of course, anything happens. But do not forget, this is actually not the end of the race, because there's every likelihood that we're going to see more drama in court in the near future. Let's now focus on the results of that election. Joining me to do this is Nelson Ekujimi, who is a political affairs analyst and was also an observer at that election. I also have Libros Oshoma, who's a lawyer and a political affairs analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me just start by getting your take on the election. I'll start with you, Libros. Was it a surprise, the outcome?
Yes, I would say pretty that it was a surprise. Even though before the election, a lot of us had consistently maintained that it was too close to call. Knowing fully well that of the three senatorial zones, both parties, had the stronghold. While the PDP had a stronghold in the central, the APC had a stronghold in the north.
So the battle was going to be
in the south.
And both candidates from the south.
Yes, and both candidates from the south. And the voting population also was in the south. And but one would have expected, following election trend in Nigeria, one would have expected that naturally that APC would carry the day. But unfortunately, it didn't go that way.
Surprise for you too, the outcome?
Definitely it was, because like Libros rightly said, we expected a 50-50 odds race, and at the end of looking at the permutations and looking at so many other factors at play, one expected the APC challenger to have carried the day. But lo and behold, a lot of factors went into that election, and Godwin Obaseki returned unopposed.
And it clearly tells you that with human behavior, it's more probabilistic than predictable, that most times you just cannot predict. On the basis of the crowd you see at rallies and all of that, it's sometimes very difficult to predict the outcome of elections.
Yeah, for me, the crowds are the same. You actually fetch the crowd from the same pool. And that's
exactly,
why.
That's the truth.
Yeah, you fetch them from the same pool, and the same people you see attend the APC rally. The next day you give them another set of
t-shirts. And they're telling you the same thing. We're going to support you. We're going to support you.
We'll vote for you. Otherwise, if you are not the same pool, you won't see politicians, sharing money to buy votes. Like, you vote. Show me the ballot paper and then I pay you for it. You won't see all of that.
We know, Nelson, that money is a big factor in elections in this country. You observed the election. You went around some polling units. Did you witness that?
Absolutely, I did. Like I covered.
So you saw vote buying.
I saw it was very prevalent in almost all the polling stations. This was a rehash of what we had in 2016. And if you recollect, we took that fever of vote buying in Edo in 2016 to Ondo, which we labeled the Boko Sebe. And right now, that is the fear. We also have that fever of vote buying, or the virus of vote buying. Are we going to transfer it again to Ondo? Are we going to see a replica of 2016? Because if you look at what happened on election day, there was no difference between 2016 and 2020. It was more of vote buying than anything else. The election became like a carnival, just like in 2016.
We can't deny the fact that money plays a very crucial role in elections in this country. But for you, to what extent do you think the outcome of this election was influenced by money?
I would say to a very large extent, but Apart from the money, also, let's also not lose sight of the fact that if you look at the internal crisis within the APC, you can't rule out that factor.
That it affected
the election, and then
because
also
their candidate never got the support
of most of the governors, the party leadership.
Yeah.
And then also, we also saw that it's also a notorious fact that a lot of people that supported APC in 2015 also didn't bargain for the hardship that they are currently facing in the country now. So all of these issues also affected, apart from the fact that money was applied. Both parties shared money. That's obvious. Both parties share money. But
somebody would have shared more. I mean, it's always for the highest bidder. Anyway. We really see that in other elections.
We can't say who shared more here now because...
Difficult to tell.
Yes, until we take a statistics of how much actually even came into the state for the election before you now begin to say, oh, this shared more. But also, there are a lot of people who ordinarily supported Obaseki in 2016 because he was in APC. About who today, or who just in this election, September 19th, would rather not support him again because he had left APC. If the reverse were the case, probably the result would still have been the same.
You think so?
Well, if Obaseki had remained in APC, there was that likelihood that he could also have emerged. But don't forget, to take it from where liberals stood.
Let's get this straight. If Obaseki had remained
in
APC and he was the candidate
then
APC, he was still going to win this election.
Yes, there's that, because he would have had a united front, a united house coming behind him.
That's not possible.
Hold on. But you saw that in 2016, he came in from nowhere because it was propped up by his predecessor, who has now been referred to as a godfather to his opponent then, who was his own godfather then. What I'm saying in essence is that if APC had presented Obaseki, because what happened in Edo was like it was a fight between Obaseki and his estranged godfather. So that affected his chances of emerging as a party candidate.
It is the same fight. Even if Obaseki had become the candidate against the wish of his so-called godfather, quote-unquote, Oshomole, what the APC governors did to their candidate, probably Oshomole would have done to Obaseki in that election. So there still would have been division. And then this, apathy against the party, APC, also would have happened. A lot of people supported Obaseki. Some people supported Obaseki, not because, because in this election, performance in terms of infrastructural development was not an issue, was not the issue at all. It really came to the top burner.
I should ask you this now. How much of an issue was the fact, or this issue, the issue that the governor actually played up, that this was a war between, himself trying to liberate the state and himself from a perceived overbearing political godfather? How much did that?
If you understand, Nigerians will like queuing behind the oppressed.
You think that influenced that?
It influenced a lot of, from two years back, Obaseki started singing that song.
That he was oppressed.
Yes, that he was oppressed. And so gradually he started edging that, slogan into the mind of the people. Oh, I'm being oppressed. Oh, ministers are being appointed, board members are appointed from my state. As the governor, I'm not aware. I'm being denied a ticket because I insist that I cannot be dictated to. So with that, even though to some extent also that wasn't the issue, but people gradually, in Nigerians, we are all oppressed. And so when you see a man up there who is oppressed, the tendency for people to naturally gravitate towards him. So, and he played that slogan very well. His major opponent did not have a response to that slogan. Even if they didn't wake up early. And so, then quickly to round it up, I also expected Oshomole not to play the big man's role that he played in the campaign. And so they made it look as if, yes, like we're saying,
there was an election between Obaseki
and Oshomole. So it de-emphasized the main candidate.
Well, I disagree with him, because if you were at the polling stations, you know that what played out, what affected the mass majority of the voters that came to the polling station was what they could get.
Money, yeah.
It was money. Because these issues of Oshomole being portrayed as a godfather who was having a rough time.
It's my state, so I know what I'm telling you.
I was physically on ground. So I saw the mood. I could feel it. It was not about somebody coming to you. You know, it was just like at the motor park at Ojota or Yaba. There will be somebody at the entrance.
I understand your point.
Bargaining how much to be paid.
Let's just quickly take a short break because there's something I also want to point out. The truth is that, well, the issue of whether Oshomole played too much of a prominent role or too less of a prominent role is very highly debatable. Because when you look at the results, that's what we're going to do when we come back from the break.
Yes.
When we look at the results, then I think you can begin to get some kind of picture that Oshomole's factor actually helped the APC to get that amount of votes they actually got. So we're going to take a short break now, and we'll be right back to do an analysis of the results of that election. On DEJI360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent.
Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that ballot.
DEJI360, providing clarity to issues.